This device in my hand, it started as a communication device. But now we have a calculator, a camera, a music player, a library, a map, and whatnot. We celebrate when technology does multiple things. But when a person does it, we call them unfocused. And that contradiction is where my story begins. Before I dive deeper in, let me introduce myself. I am Merlin Jennifer, a girl who's obsessed with exploring everything she loves to do. And in relation with that, the topic that I chose today is talent isn't the problem, labels are. Being good at multiple things is supposed to be an advantage until it wasn't. Until it quietly becomes the reason that people decide you don't belong anywhere. That's exactly what happened to me. A while ago, I was called in for a technical meeting. A group of serious students were being invited, the kind of room where serious ideas were being discussed and certain important opportunities were being handed out. I entered with a lot of excitement and curiosity about how the meeting was about to unfold and what opportunities would be presented to me. Before I could even settle down, the person in charge looked at me and said, "This meeting is only for very technical people, not for the ones involved in culturals." And just like that, I was sent back. No questions asked, no further conversation, not even a chance to explain. Just an assumption, just a conclusion based on what he thought I was. What he knew about me is simple. He knew that I danced. He knew that I spoke on stages. He knew that I was involved in spaces that did not look very technical, in other sense cultural. But what he did not know and did not ask is that I had worked on multiple technical projects, and ironically, a few weeks later, I went on to win the Smart India Hackathon, one of the prestigious national level competitions out there. But by then, the opportunity that he held was already gone. Right here, let me make it clear, I'm not sharing this story to blame someone or for validation. I'm sharing this because it made me realize something truly unsettling. The problem here was not my capability, but it was the template that he used to judge it. It doesn't just happen in college. It happens everywhere. The artist who's been told to not be creative enough, the engineer who's blamed that they are not logical enough, and the student who's pressurized to pick one thing and stick to it. But even then, we are not realizing that we have built a system that rewards neatness, not depth. Because boxes are easier to manage than people, but people were never meant to be single-dimensional. You know what's interesting? This doesn't just start in college. It doesn't even start in high school. It starts the moment a kid says, "I want to be an astronaut and a singer." And some well-meaning adult smiles and replies, "Well, you eventually have to choose one." But why? Why do we have to choose one? When I was younger, I used to love taking things apart just to see how it worked. Because I was genuinely curious what was inside the toys or the electronic gadgets that I was working on. And I loved performing. I loved expressing myself through the art of dance. And the idea that I could express my opinions louder in a stage and people listening to it amused me. And then one of the relatives asked my parents, "Well, is she going to be an engineer or a journalist or a dancer?" As if those were opposing forces, as if curiosity and creativity cannot exist in the same person. Even then, I had this pressure to pick one, to declare an identity, to stay in my lane. And I think a lot of us carry this message into from her childhood into our adulthood as well. because we internalize the idea of having to pick one because that's what we've been taught since the age we were old enough to dream. And moving on, the most important part is that we don't see enough about the psychological shift that happens in such individuals. Because when a person encounters moments of dismissal without a valid reason, as time passes by, they enter the loop of overthinking and they start doubting themselves. For a long time, I started questioning myself too. Should I stop doing some things? Should I simplify who I am? Should I just show one version of myself so that people take me seriously? And that's exactly how voices get bound. Not by being told to stay silent, but by being made to feel like they don't belong. We live in a world that loves labels. This is what a technical person should look like. This is what a serious student should behave like. This is what a competent should sound like. And when we don't match that image exactly, we are quietly pushed aside. Not because you're wrong, but because you're unfamiliar. What changed for me was this realization. Instead of asking, why don't I fit in? I started asking, why is the room so small? Why is the definition so narrow? Because the truth is, being good at multiple things doesn't make you confused. It makes you capable in different ways. And let me elaborate on that. There's a mind-blowing fact. A study published in the Nature analyzed Nobel Prize winners, and guess what they found? They were 22 times more likely to be amateur actors, dancers, or performers than other scientists. They were 12 times more likely to be fiction writers or poets than other scientists. This tells us that their side hobbies were not distractions, but rather they were cognitive cross-training. In simple words, they trained their brain to think differently because they actually did different things. So the next time someone tells you to stay in your box or someone tells you to be in your limits directly or indirectly, or blames that your side interests are something that's supposed to be done only in free time and they are distractions, I want you to lean in closer and tell them that they are your secret weapons. And moving on, if we talk about innovation and problem solving, since we've seen that a lot in the newspapers and in the latest news, the real innovation doesn't come from people who all think the same, do the same, or even follow the same path. It comes from people who connect completely two different worlds together, who bring range, perspective, and connection into the room. In short, it is done by people who do not fit neatly into one template. History is full of people who didn't fit the label until the label had to change. Steve Jobs once said that creativity is about connecting things. What people forget is what he connected. He connected calligraphy with engineering. He connected technology with design. He connected logic with art. And at that time, none of it looked useful until it changed how the world communicates. So if you've ever been underestimated just because you didn't look like the part, or have been told directly or indirectly to shrink yourself, all I want to say is don't. Because history has never been changed by people who fit the templates perfectly, but by those who are brave enough to outgrow it. So don't shrink your interests. Don't edit your curiosity. Don't dim the parts of yourself that do not fit the template yet. Be unapologetically more than one thing. Because more than what you need, the world needs it. The world needs thinkers who can think differently. And it is time that we realize being multi-passionate is a true gift, and let's allow ourselves to indulge in the beauty and pleasure of doing everything that we love. And let me leave you with a small challenge. The next time when someone tries to put you in a box, I want you to ask you the simple question. Why? Because 9 times out of 10, they won't have an answer. They'll just reply, that's just how it is. And that is your time to decide, do I accept how it is? Or do I become part of changing it? You already know my answer. Now it's time to decide yours. Thank you.